IVM.
Welcome to yet another episode of the VishalGondal show. Today I have somebody who I call a fellow gamer. He's really fun. He games, he does many things, but one very peculiar thing about him is he gets bored very fast doing the same thing. So he has this itch of doing new things almost every month, every year he's on to something new. He also is somebody who, if you listen to his story, you will figure out that how what you are born to do versus what you are destined to do are two different things. I mean, he comes from a very humble family. Today, you have none other than Akshat Rathee. He's a celebrated entrepreneur, especially in the world of esports. Today, there are millions of Indians gaming and playing esports thanks to Akshat's venture, NODWIN Games. And today it is not only a premier esports company, but actually amongst the top two in the world. And very soon I can bet you it's going to be the top in the world. So without further ado, once again, welcome Akshat to the show. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Vishal. I'm really happy to be here. You know, it's always nice to go out and join someone who inspires you in life. I remember one of the cool things around gaming, at least, was looking at you jumping up and down when the World Cyber Games were happening, and then you were part of your earlier avatar for Goki there. And what you did, as the first coming of gaming and esports, you know, it's always such a pleasure to go out and be with someone else who understands the language and the pain and the suffering and the dreams that you have to go out and do to go out and make what you want to go out and do reality.
So, and I think there's one very interesting thing about the show, Akshat, that I normally only get people to be my guests who I know for a long time, and that typically is a few years. But with you, I think we possibly know each other, from 2004, 2005? I mean, that's almost, 15, 16 years. Even though we may have not hung out a lot together. I mean, we must have met just each other a few times. But of course, I was very well aware of what you were up to with NODWIN Games, and your conversation used to keep coming up every time we were launching World Cyber Games. So I think, even though, like I said, we have not spent as much intimate time together, you are somebody who I can connect like this, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why.
But it's, I think, multi-level, right? I think you called me impatient. Are you talking to a mirror? You're as impatient as I do. So we relate on the fact that we like building things. We like getting our hands dirty. And also the space that we've been in is very similar, right? And when you've been in the trenches and similar trenches, it doesn't matter what you have been. You have this camaraderie that you often build for another person, right? Like you don't have to go and have, hey, what do you do? Why do you do? What do you do it in? And why? That's done, and you go and start from a much more higher plane of conversation very quickly, right? There's both respect for what the other person has done. There is not as much the initial awkward phases of, are you legit or not, or whatever, right? Those are just givens that you go ahead and have in life.
But it is interesting that you kind of define yourself as somebody who is not patient and who wants to do new things. And it's interesting that I used to consider myself in that category, but of late, actually, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to develop patience. In fact, and it is one of the most difficult things to do, believe me. I think for somebody like you and me who are used to, making things happen very fast and do things in a jiffy, I think doing things, taking its own time also has its own kind of merits. And I think this whole lockdown and this whole scenario has kind of taught me that, right? That there are so many things which are not in your control. And I think in your case, something like that also just happened, right? I mean, the esports business, which was this thriving business of events and everything, and one fine day, it's all over. So tell me what happened to you? How did those few days or weeks go by when all hell broke loose? And in your case, it was not once, it happened twice, with PUBG also suddenly getting banned in India, right? Which was one of your leading games.
So I don't know whether this is kosher enough, but let's say there was a lot of staining of the pants that happened very, very immediately after that. And then comes this realization very quickly saying, sure, but so what, right? You have this aha moment, not an aha moment, you have this very soul-searching moment that is there. PUBG gets banned, is NODWIN going to die? We looked at each other, it's like, no, we'll grow slower, right? That's the perspective, right? PUBG was not the reason why NODWIN existed. We existed before PUBG Mobile was active in India. Counter-Strike, the Premiership, DreamHack, all our big IPs that were there were all going fairly well. And so games do come and go over time, which is there. And this was literally this is equivalent of cricket being banned in India as in the sports equivalents, right? The number one game in the country just goes away overnight. But then the question which was there was, once you have people in India who have started loving gaming, right? Once they've started loving the fact of gaming, we saw very quickly the influencers. Gaming did not go away from the DNA of India. And that was the big lesson. That was the big test. And that big test was a 3-month test very quickly to see, has gaming gone away from India, or were we a one-hit wonder? And it wasn't a one-hit wonder. I think gaming has become very ubiquitous to what India does as a matter of entertainment, both in India and Bharat. I like to go ahead and say that PUBG Mobile was really what Bharat in India plays, right? This wasn't the equivalent of English test match cricket.
Or it is not Fortnite. There's not Fortnite, which only rich South Mumbai kids are playing, right?
Well, yes. So I often give this example, and I've done this, so I'll just repeat it. I think PC gaming and the legacy part of PC gaming and esports is like test match cricket. It needs to be done very prim and proper. It needs a lot of equipment that has to be right. It has to be which is the equivalent of test match cricket, right? White ball, tee, flannels, red ball, tee, flannels, white clothes. Has to be done right. Only rich boys end up going and doing it across the world. If you're in a country club or you're from one of the bigger cities, the equipment required is far, 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 far more. Then comes one-day cricket, which is very equivalent to console gaming. Once in a while, when Fortnite is happening or Call of Duty's launch is coming or FIFA is coming, everyone pays attention to it for 1.5 months, which is equivalent of an India-Pakistan series or the World Cup once in a while happening. And everyone pays attention to it. And then everyone forgets about it and just go back to what they want to go to do. And mobile gaming literally did what 2020 did to India, right? It let India play, the bigger India play. The language of communication and commentary and content became Hindi. And such an interesting fact, it was the people who were the PC gaming people who went and poo-pooed against it, right? So earlier it was everyone going and poo-pooing against PC gamers, and then PC gamers became the barrier or the holders of the standard to saying that, oh, mobile gaming is not legit. And every time something like that happens, you create space. You create space for people to go ahead and do new things. So the new content creators came, the Carrie Minartis and the Mortals and the Thugs and the, Tanmays and Scouts of the world and the Ghataks of the world start coming into the ecosystem. They don't speak in English. It creates and it leads to its own ecosystem per se. So when we saw some things of that happen, we saw the influencers staying strong. They changed games. They changed the kind of content strategy that they have. But everything still kept working. And then when the pandemic happened, I often say NODWIN was this really simple beach shack we had put on the side of the esports world with the big ships of global Europe, Southeast Asia, America sitting on it. But they were made of concrete and very strong event-based monetization plans, and NODWIN could never go ahead and afford it, right? If you look at the total number of physical events NODWIN used to go ahead and do maybe 20, 25 a year, and they were predominantly as entitlements and obligations to sponsors to go ahead and activate, which is there. Content doesn't change. If you look at the KPI that you have for esports, and most of the times you want to go ahead and have a media and reach KPI, then the total number of people watching your stream becomes an extremely important one, right? Just like the IPL. Is IPL for the people in the stadium, or is IPL for the people who are for the broadcast? And we've seen with the pandemic right now, it's for the people in the broadcast sitting at home right now. And if sports can transcend, why can't esports transcend? And that's the segue we took very quickly. It really helped because our DNA was that. While the rest of the world looked at very strong revenue reduction, we had revenue being doubled, trebled. Now we're part of Nazara's ecosystem, so most of our numbers are publicly available. So we did really well because of that.
That's amazing. But one thing, before we jump into your business, it's interesting, you grew up in Haryana. And, while Haryana is a great state, it's not really known for its tech entrepreneurs, or it's not really that, it's normally Bangalore or, Delhi and other places, or Bombay. So, how was it growing like? You were born in, it was Faridabad or somewhere, right?
I was born in Delhi, but I've been a Haryana boy ever since my father was in the police. And so we got transferred all over the place.
Yeah, so with having such a humble background, with your father being a government servant, police, and then being in Haryana, how does this Haryana ka Jat, again I'm just paraphrasing, that get into all these things? मतलब ये Haryana में लोग ये सब थोड़ी करते हैं.
Sports तो खेलते हैं.
Okay.
Right, number one sport state in our country. 1.2% of our population gets 50% of our medals.
No, but sports was much later, right? I mean, you started doing Kida with technology much earlier when you were like.
I also loved computers. My father was nice enough to go ahead and get me a computer when I was very young. I think computers talked to me, or I talked to them somehow. I've always loved computers. I've broken apart computers and technology and VCRs, got slapped around for it, somehow fixed it without manuals. And that has allowed me to go ahead and have a fundamental understanding of what technology is to people.
But normally, if your father is in the police, you would say कि मैं IAS बनूंगा, IPS बनूंगा. I'm just saying that a typical environment.
No, I refuse to go ahead and be pushed around by a politician like my dad used to get pushed around. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? And it is one of the most powerful positions and services that are there. But it is subservient to politicians and their whims and fancies. And if someone has to push me around, I'd rather be pushed around on terms I can go ahead and control. It's just, it's the typical story where you have either your children rebel and do absolutely the antithesis of what you do as a parent, or they go ahead and follow your footsteps. I never wanted to be a civil servant.
But what about your other siblings? Do you have other siblings who are?
I have a younger brother. He followed at least the education part of what my dad is. My dad is a trained lawyer. That's, before civil services come, you actually have a specialization. So my dad is a lawyer. My grandfather is a lawyer. My younger brother followed the family Khandani tradition, became a lawyer.
Wow. So at least somebody followed the tradition.
Of
course,
course,
that's interesting.
I'm the black sheep of the family. I was the black sheep of the family. Like, pata nahi kya karta rehta hai gaming, shaming ke upar and entrepreneurship. I wouldn't be here without my family and the trust they have. So,
but again, right? It's amazing that, because the problem is at the age what you were given this opportunity, right? I think that's the critical age, and unfortunately, most parents at this age say, forget all this, padhai karo. And they kind of put you on the education track, and a lot of, all the stories which we typically hear is that this is the time they are studying for scoring 98% marks in some subject. How are you in your studies and stuff like that, right? Apart from...
It was good. So I think the deal I had with my parents was be in the top 10. They didn't really care if I'm number one, if I was first in class or second in class. They always felt good about it. Once in a while when that used to go and happen. But they were okay. Top 10 is fine. It's fine. Just don't be. I think they were disappointed in my Hindi papers. So were my teachers. But besides Hindi, where I didn't do too well, I was okay. I was decent in studies. I have always believed education is a really important part. I'm a graduate. I not only graduated in engineering from Manipal, but I also did an MBA. Education is important, not from just the Rolodex it gives you, but for the fact it lets you understand what people are communicating with you, which is there. And experience can do really well, but most of the times experience still can't offset for a certain amount of education. And yes, it's a challenge. Of course, it's a challenge. You want to be special, do something special, do special things. So yeah, like who says that, like, because I was an engineer and an MBA, because I had that kind of an education, allowed me to go ahead and have the first 4, 5, 10 years of my corporate life where I learned so much out of them, and I wouldn't have gotten them if I had not been educated, right? So,
but you didn't wait to finish your education. You were already teaching people how to build computers, right? So why are you suddenly crediting so many things to education?
no, but I'll tell you what. So, can I teach people how to go ahead and do computers? Skill set. Can I go ahead and tell people to go ahead and have this communication skills and the ability to understand education? The world still treats you with the certificates that you have, right? And I've often been troubled with this thing. Is a person who's got 20 years of experience better than a person who has 20 years of education? I was like, that's a wrong question to ask. I'm going to ask you a question. A person who has 15 years of 15 years of experience and 5 years of education, which one would you choose? You'd always choose the one with the combo, right?
So I think that's the only difference I have, right? So I believe there's a difference between education and learning. Problem of education is what people do to you, and learning is what you do to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, education is about mugging up and just rattoing things and getting the highest score, and that is not what you're talking. It's about learning, correct?
Well, I'll tell you what engineering taught me: scientific method. Right? A lot of this was just garbage that there was there, and I had enough of my issues with my college and my principals and my teachers in life, and that's a separate story we'll talk about. But what did it teach you? Right? The MBA taught me jargon. I understood when someone says what's a return on capital employed. These are not just really nice words that someone has thrown at me. It actually means something, right? If someone talks to me about the Porter's 5 forces and whatever, because eventually you live in what we call the corporate real life, which is there, right? If I have to do a business plan, I need to be able to understand that. You need to be multidisciplinary. Will you be great at all of those things? No. But understand that. And I'll tell you why that is important. I have a feeling, and I have a thesis, never have people in your organization whose work you cannot do. Or at least you cannot tell if they're fibbing to you. Right? If a person comes to you and say, this is a nice business model, इसमें 15 दिन लगेंगे, या ये तो social media post है, इसको post करने में 10 दिन लगेंगे या 12 घंटे लगेंगे. You should be able to say, what? No, sit down. This takes about 35 minutes to do. Right? Sit down here. Tell me why this takes there. Same thing as coding. Same thing as building a website. Same thing as building a platform or conducting a tournament or making brackets around something or writing an essay, which is there. Know how much time it takes to do this, because if you don't, you'll either be a hypocritical boss or a boss that your subordinates will run circles around.
No, but even before you came up to starting, NODWIN, etc., right? I mean, you had a very interesting journey where you started making money right in college, with your, cable or whatever you were doing. I mean, what was that whole crazy idea about, and how did you end up having 80 lakhs in your bank account?
Necessity and hormones. No, like Manipal, I'm there and I'm spending some time in doing my engineering. It's fine. First year did well, then didn't realize that this.
And by the way, why Manipal? I mean, did you not apply?
I liked engineering. I got 4 or 5 options at the end of 12th. I had got the hotel management. I had engineering. I had a BBA. I could go abroad to go out and do things. And I liked engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I got computer engineering in Manipal. I like computers.
Got it.
I was like, chalo.
And you did your college from where? That was in Delhi, or that was still in...
Engineering, the college was Manipal, right? Manipal Institute of Technology.
I mean, your 12th grade.
From Faridabad, from a school called APJ.
Okay. Oh, of course, I know Faridabad very well. I was supposed to come to your city, but for some reason I could not. I was invited there. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So you go to Manipal, and before that, have you traveled outside your city? I mean, you are this North ka garam khoon, and then suddenly you go to Manipal, which is this lazy city with, Madrasis. I'm sorry, we're just paraphrasing, but yeah, how was it like coming into, Manipal of all places?
Manipal's a weird city. 4.5 lakh students, 50,000 natural population serving those students. Everything around that is a microcosm of and this is 96 to 2000. 96 to 2000 that I spent there. And just college kids, right? Lots of medicine, engineering, hotel management, MBA, schools, and it's not just a backwater, right? It's at the top of a cliff somewhere, and it's you could be another world. Brilliant to go out and make new friends. Brilliant to go out and
yeah, I know you spent a lot of times making many girlfriends for sure over there.
Young boy, what do you want me to go out and say? you're out, you're enjoying life. You want to go out and see what the world has to offer, and but you obviously know that your parents have limited means to go out and support you. And that creates a divergence of need versus want and have, which is there. So you do business.
You started burning CDs, huh?
Of course. Understand computers, understand trends. Everyone had music CDs that were there. Music CDs at that time were extremely expensive. So make some music, supply all the restaurants and there, because everyone likes new music. There was no MP3s at that time. So
you were making music. So you were recording music also.
No. I was just copying music from BBSs and supplying a need.
Got it. And you had those spindles of CDs. I remember buying a lot of those whenever I was, especially I used to buy them from, not Nehru Place. I used to buy them from Singapore.
Oh, there you go.
Mustafa.
150 rupees a DVD. CD.
CD. Where Mustafa was the cheapest. I figured out that, of course, Delhi was more expensive and Nehru Place and Lamington Road. So I used to, whenever I used to travel, that was the place I used to buy it. Yeah.
It's cost 150 rupees. I used to take 48 minutes, 32 seconds to go ahead and burn a CD at 1x.
I know. It was such a pain. Yeah. Such a pain. And then, then there was a CD car double speed and 52x and, all kinds of things, right? Yeah, those were the days when I think people today are spoiled,
streaming.
People are streaming and operating at whatever, gigabits per second. We are the people who've operated on dial-up modems and we know what life was.
28.6 baud.
Exactly, right? So anyway, those were a very different day and time. So you go to Manipal, you finish your engineering, and then you again want to go and study more, correct?
No, not yet. I was flying back from Manipal from Mangalore airport, and I was, I think, in my final year of engineering. And I was sitting next to a person on a flight. We just got talking, and the answer, we were just talking about movies. And again, you'll hear me say this: we are a sum total of the actions we take in our lives that brings us to today. Because I burnt those CDs, because I ran servers for multiplayer gaming, for Red Alert, and for every one of those games at that time, Command and Conquer and Quake, you needed to go and spend a lot of time taking care of your servers. Heating up, no air conditioning in your hostel rooms. So you run servers and you understand how to take care of servers. When you're taking care of servers, most IT people, what will they do? They'll open a computer and then they'll watch movies. At least that's what I did. And I started watching a lot of movies. So I was flying back with this gentleman and he asked me, talked about movies, and he says, what do you like? I said, I like movies. He's like, yeah, everyone likes movies, but would you really like movies about? I said, ask me a question. Ask me any kind of a question around any movie, and I'll show me 5 seconds of it, and I'll tell you the names of the actors, the story, and this. Because I used to watch 3 to 4 movies a day.
Wow.
That's the kind of time that I had. He gave me a job on the spot. Once he checked me out on a couple of things, I went to his office in Connaught Place, showed me a couple of them. Half an hour later, I was like, done. And then as a process and engineering, that's what it teaches. At least to me, that's the one thing I learned from engineering is processes, right? Define the problem statement, then go ahead and solve the problem. And then
you are the first person who gives so much credit to all this thing. Everybody I speak to say, this college is a complete waste of time. I didn't learn.
The subjects they teach is a waste of time.
So then what did you learn?
College gives you some of the best learnings if you want to go ahead and get the learnings. Like, to me, computer graphics was not about computer graphics on the page which is there. Compilers were not about compilers that is there and parsers. Understanding a problem statement and taking the problem statement to define the tools that you have is this. Forget the question and the answer paper that they ask you to go ahead and do. That to me is the mug up part to go ahead and do, right? You will go ahead and secure a second class in India if you take the last 10 years question papers and only prepare those question papers and go ahead and give your exam. I swear you will. Right? It's not even a mug up problem. It's a natural causality of the teacher's problem, right? The teacher needs to go ahead and judge you, ask you on the core subjects that they have taught during that time. They will ask you core subjects, and then the only thing that you change is the variables. The constant is the concept. If the constant is the concept and you only know the concept, you have fulfilled the needs to go ahead and do this, right? It's a very simple way to go solve the problem. But that to me was never the problem. I was like, why are these questions always the same? Why is microprocessor theory always asking the same idiotic question with just different variables? And the answer is because it's a building block for the process that you need to go ahead and solve. So it's like your alphabet, right? You better know your alphabet. So it doesn't matter the words you're making from it. Because if you know how to use your alphabets, you'll make words and sentences and paragraphs in the Shakespeare.
Well, all I can tell you is that you should be a brand ambassador for our education system because, I don't know. I mean, I don't know which college or school you went to. I never learned any of this in school or college for sure.
Yeah, look at this. If education was the shining light of anything which is there, our teachers should have been the most expensive people who should have been paid the most, right? They're not. Same thing as cops. We keep on telling people in civil servant that they should not take bribes. But we go ahead and create such an ecosystem for them that it is imperative for them to take bribes. They have to put their children through school. They have to, and if you don't and you go not do that, you become like my dad. He gets a president's medal, but he gets transferred 20 times during his life. Right? So the answer always comes down to, if this is the most important thing, then the teacher who is teaching me should be the most expensive paid person, but it is not. Right? How can the teachers teach people to be better than them? The only way that answer happens is if they teach them concepts and enable them, rather than go ahead and give them the limitation of what they were, which is box them in boxes, right? So just this understanding ki ye kyun kar rahe hain, kaise kar rahe hain, why is my teacher not able to go ahead and teach me better, is because he can't. That's the best he knows, right? And then for you to go ahead and understand what he's not able to teach you and say, इसका मतलब ये है. That's fine. इसका मतलब ये है. वो जैसे
I think they should have charged you double the fees because you have possibly learned most from school or college than anyone else. But anyway, that's why you are what you are, and that brings you to your job in the movie business, right? You from nowhere are working for this movie company.
Yeah, I used to fly to Cannes. I used to go ahead and watch movies, and I'd say this movie will be brought to India, and how do we bring that movie to India?
And you were part of Columbia, you said.
Yeah, so the company was called PGM Entertainment, and they used to go ahead and work for Columbia Pictures, yes.
Because, interestingly, I had a lot of friends, so I knew Paramount Pictures, Columbia, all these guys. So I think Vikram, who was at Columbia? Who was Vikram Singh?
Yes.
Vikram Singh, yes. Of course, I've met Vikram several times, and another very close friend of mine is Jacinto Fernandez. Now, of course, he's moved out, but he was head of Paramount, so... Yeah, it was interesting that we were roaming around in the same circles, but we never end up meeting each other that time. But yeah, I mean, I remember Columbia was supposed to be the hottest studio.
Yep.
And Paramount and Columbia had this rivalry, right, of what movies they were bringing in.
Yep. And then the problem there was, while I love movies per se, they're more intelligent people and more capable people to go ahead and understand this. To me, the real reason I was brought in was very simple problem statement that I wanted to solve for, which was, why are movies in India released 6 months later than America? Right? And again, I'm going back to times that some people weren't there. But in year 2000, it used to take 6 months for movies to go and come after America.
And a lot of people didn't even release. A lot of movies also didn't release.
Because the process was archaic, right? And I kid you not, the process required two people in two reviews from a trade publication certified in India to go ahead and give you a trade review. This is the certification process, right? It's that great. How does that person watch that movie? Oh, you have to import it on spindles and go ahead and bring those spindles and make them watch this thing. But how do you import the spindles? You have to import it under 4 different licenses to go ahead and import them. Under Mercury, because it's a movie film import license that is there because the industry in India and Bollywood wanted to go ahead and make some part of it. You had to run it at a specific theater. You had to go, and all of these people wanted their reviews before they come to the censors, right? And then the censors used to go ahead and watch this, give cuts, give suggestions, which you had to now transmit to America because that's where the editing is. You can't edit this in India. They then cut it, go ahead and change the things that they wanted to go ahead and do, resend the reel to India, where you resend it to everyone else to go ahead and do this process. And at that time, film, like, because it's very combustible, you could fly it over airplanes because airplanes always had a problem to go ahead and fly movie film. So you actually had to ship it sometimes.
Oh God. But I remember that, I don't know which movie, but the first movie which had a day and day release in India.
Charlie's
was
Angels.
like yeah. Oh, so that was you.
Yes.
Because I think that opened the floodgates, right? This whole thing of day and date release in India itself was like, oh my God, what is happening?
What is happening?
So how did you make it happen?
Processes, systems. I know it sounds so weird, Vishal, when it comes from think of what I just explained to you right now, put up on a big chart, and then you blow it up. And you literally blow it up saying, problem. Okay, let's solve each of them independently, right? Who says this had to be on film?
VCR, you could get a DVD or whatever else.
Right? You could go ahead and literally do it over a VCR, right? At that time. So why can't we do it over a VCR? And everyone just looked at each other and it was like,
yeah, nobody told us before. Yeah,
exactly, right? And that's what systems do to you. Everyone forgets why we are doing it. People just remember the ritual. Just questioning the status quo has got me very far in going and saying, look at each of those little items and go ahead and do this. Who said that the reviewer had to be in India? Why can't you put him on a flight and send him to America? And send his wife or his spouse or his better half with him? Why couldn't you go ahead and make sure that the censor board, when he looks at it, we took away that entire process that used to go ahead and take 4.5 months of shipping, logistics, ammonia, licenses, this, by flying 14 people, right? And this was submitted and everyone was super happy about it.
Yeah, and they all got a free trip to America. They would be like, wow, humko sabko jana hai review karne ke liye.
Because we also connected them to other global reviewers, right? The guy who used to go ahead and do this as a part of cartelization or a license regime, saying, we are one of the 3 trade publications, hame milega iske liye paise de do or whatever. We actually changed his life by going and saying, you are actually good at this. Your review actually matters. It is not just paperwork that you are actually going and doing. Why don't you actually do a good review? And here, meet other global people that are going and doing global reviews. Sit with the American Theatre Guild Society to go ahead and do it. Look at these reviewers that are coming here. And there were other reviewers, right? This process of reviewers is not just a now thing. There were people coming from UK and Japan and Germany because they also had to do the certification process. And the guy goes,
and that's a lot. And this is not just true for this business, right? A lot of times people don't question what they do. And specifically, in fact, forget about questions what they do. People don't question their own things which they create, right? So another thing is that, let's say that you create that I'm going to do something like this in my company. And tomorrow, if you have to change it, people are like, oh, but that was the brother who created the rule. It was we who created the rules itself, right?
90% of startup businesses fly the ship, launch the ship, and then keep on building it while they're going. And suddenly, when you go through a generational change where you get new middle management, new top management, everyone goes and says, but that's the holy grail. That's what it has been written. All bow before the rules. It's like I had sugar paste and bubble gum and I winged this, which was there. This was done overnight because shit was hitting the fan. That's why we did it. Stop making it holy grail. Question it.
Yeah, the only rules is that there is no rules.
Yes, it solves the problem. So if you come up with a rule, if you come up with a hypothesis or an experiment or the scientific method, it better be better than what I'm doing. So don't give me something that will be worse off, which is there, right? That makes no sense for me to go into. So give me suggestions.
So one interesting hack which I kind of got, and I'm trying to inculcate this, is I ask people to do experiments, because somehow people are happy to fail in experiments, but they're not happy to fail when you say, oh, let's do this as a project.
Yep.
Or let's do this as some kind of legitimate word, or let's do this as a new business. I think let's do something as an experiment is something which is a lot more acceptable. So I think the whole world right now needs more experiments. And
yes, and just try it out. Someone goes and say, and then they're going like, but how do I do an experiment? I don't know. Set. And I take people through this very simple, what I call the scientific method, right? Have a hypothesis, have a starting baseline, try.
And improve. If you can improve the baseline better, then you won.
Simple. And if it doesn't, it's like, no, but what if I need 20 crores for going and doing this? Did the previous thing have 20 crores? No, it didn't. Do better.
No, yeah, I don't think so. People get it. So you were now a successful executive in a hi-fi company. You were having fun. So what happened suddenly? Ye sab chhod ke, why did you enter?
I got drunk with my boss. Asked how much he earns, and that's one of the recurring themes in my life. And decided I'm not going to go and do this when I'm 54.
Was that amount too high or too low?
I quit the next day. That basically meant that that was way too low for my life's ambition. I was like, nahi, na ho payega. And then I decided I want to do an MBA. And then you question yourself, right? I am here. He earns this much. Why is he earning this much? I want to earn more. What is there that is missing in my life that allows me to earn more? The answer here is I'm not as educated as I should be, because for me to go ahead and get better education allows me access to this higher tier club for me to go.
You are a complete antithesis for a gaming business CEO, man. Gaming business CEOs are fuck education. I don't like any of this shit. This is a waste of time. That's why I was gaming. And you're like, no, I studied and then I experimented and then I did this, then I did MBA. I mean, you are in the wrong business, dude.
No, I actually think that, this is my theory, which is there, is business, the art of business is the art of making wealth, right? And truly understanding what is value and wealth to a lot of people is a very difficult thing for people to do. People also often confuse the difference between value and wealth. They always think, मुझे 50,000 रुपए की salary है, 60,000 रुपए की salary मिल जाएगी तो मैं wealthy हो गया. नहीं, बकवास, कुछ नहीं हुआ. Nothing has changed in life. On a 30-year phase in life, that makes no difference at all. And truly understanding wealth and truly understanding when I want to go ahead and retire, what is the kind of, and doing hard, I love numbers. I really love numbers, which is there. And just like computers talk to me, I think numbers talk to me. And so just sitting down together and saying, I like Excel, saying, so I am 23 years old, I'm earning this with this is net present value of a future value, geometric progression, just doing some calculations around that with some increment and just look at valuation metrics on DCFs and whatever. And I was like, you can never make wealth if you're going to be just doing a job. If I'm not going to go ahead and make wealth doing a job, then I have to go ahead and be an entrepreneur. If I have to be an entrepreneur, I need to be able to go ahead and solve certain problems. For that, I need enough money. If I need enough money, I need to go ahead and make money very quickly in life, so I can go ahead and feed my entrepreneurial thing. But if I have to go ahead and make just money, I'd rather buy experiences, because I want to travel internationally and understand how an American works, how a German works, how a Japanese works, how a Chinese works, how other people work, so that I can actually communicate with them. So to me, the first 4 years of my work life were just buying experiences.
So that took you to France, you said, right? You went
to France to go ahead and do my MBA from a place called École Nationale des Ponts et Chaussées. It's a French engineering school and an MBA school that let me go ahead and do my MBA internationally.
Is that INSEAD?
It's part of the INSEAD network, yes. It's part of it's a sister college to INSEAD, or was.
So why France? I mean, France again is not known.
They gave me a 1-year MBA.
So okay. Because normally people always look at UK or US for MBAs, right? France is not really
Didn't
that.
care about the MBA. Cared about the fact that I saved a year.
So you're like, okay, I'll do wherever MBA is, which is a shorter MBA.
Yes.
But what did the MBA do to you? Matlab, it was as good as not doing an MBA, right? What happened in that 1 year which transformed anything in you?
Made me travel the world. Again, wanted to go out and look at different perspectives.
Instead of, you could have spent that money and taken a holiday and, backpack.
Holiday doesn't teach you as much because I wanted to go out and interact with other people who are fairly intelligent and doing similar 1 year MBAs. Most of them coming from work backgrounds because it's a 1 year executive MBA. Allows people who are far more older than me to go out and teach me things.
So I think what you were just saying actually is so interesting, right? So my son, who's next year hopefully going to go abroad, he's going to do his 12th IB. So I told him exactly what you just told me, right? I said, listen, don't choose a college only for the subject. Choose for who are going to be your classmates, because you will learn more from them, because you will be spending more time with your alumni or whatever, the network, right? So college is as much as the network and the people around you and the quality of those people, because study is the same. I mean, more or less the same everywhere, right? Yep. So I think, and people kind of somehow discount that part, right? I don't know why people don't value that as much, while I believe that actually the most important part of the journey, more than the destination, is the company, the people who are going to be part of you with the journey, right? Because the destination may take some time to reach, but the journey and your companions in the journey matters. So I think that's
it's exactly a spot-on thing, right? It's, if you look at, let's take a really cool Stephens. If you join St. Stephens, it doesn't matter which subject you take at St. Stephens. There is a 70% probability in 30 years' time your classmate is an IAS, IPS, or IFS officer at the top, which is there. Will be a principal secretary, a diplomat, or ambassador, or inspector general, director general in police. 70% chance.
Well, there you are. So the fact that just choosing the right college or school is more important than the right subject, and I think you were the best example of that. But tell me, what are your parents thinking? Ki yaar, kya hai ye MBA kar raha hai, ye chhod raha hai, ye, and then going to France?
I have lovely parents. They always accepted I'm a little backed out. I've always had a lateral thinking ability to things which are there. They know they were very clear. They said, Akshat, look, we have this much money for you. We are government servants. That's all we have in our life to go ahead and support you in whatever you're going to go ahead and do. It's all yours. If you think that that's what you want to go ahead and do, don't ever come back and say your parents didn't stand up for you, because we will not accept that. If this is what you believe is the right thing.
And I know, you were dabbling with many girlfriends. How did you manage, because like traveling and doing all of this, and when did you meet your now wife, and I presume a girlfriend at some point of time?
Last day of EY. So after my MBA, I joined Daksh. I became Daksh now. And
of course, Sanjeev is a good friend, and the guy who founded that, right? Yeah.
And that entire thing was around processes, right? So I've loved my country forever, right? So I was like, fine, I've done my MBA. Now I will go ahead and do something for India. It's like, I'll join Daksh. And 5 days later, they sent me to Jacksonville in Florida to go ahead and transition the entire medical HMO process from America to India. And I understand it. I like processes, systems, numbers, computers. They talk to me. So I did a good job of it, came back, taught people, understood, made them understand where is that. They're like, very good, go do this again. I was like, that's not happening. I want to do things for India. I like processes and systems which are there. So applied to Ernst & Young just after they were taken over from Anderson in their consulting division. Joined them, spent a good 3.5 years with them, traveled to Africa as part of the USAID program, traveled to pharmaceutical companies in Givaudan, in Switzerland, traveled to America with certain parts, traveled to China, Japan with Jubilant when they were doing their M&A activity.
And this was part of Daksh or EY then?
This is all EY, process consulting. And once I had seen enough and said I'm good, then I was like, ab khud karte. So tried going and setting up my own consulting firm. My EY partner said, this 3 or 4 year itch happens for all consultants, probably making a mistake. Bless him. He said, go take a sabbatical, see how it works out after 3 months and come back, don't quit. 2 months later, I had a check that was bigger than my full year's salary. It's like, you're sorted, go. So
what did you do in that 2 months to have such a big check?
No, my salary wasn't much.
Okay, I was like, ये 2 महीने में कोई बैंक तो नहीं लूट लिया जाके?
कुछ salary कहाँ देते हैं? कुछ नहीं होता है सच में. We just get charged for a lot of high. The brand works, right? It's EY stamp. So I helped out a company called Oxygen. They were in POS systems and wallets and there. So
these guys are South African, right?
South African people invested in it's there. So the big company had invested in them. So got them that, understood more, understood processes more, turned it up, and then had this 5-year, 6-year journey of just consulting, looking at projects, investing in companies, making them go a little bigger, doing some M&A because again, like numbers and stuff. So built
you were what? You were all of what, 26, 27 that time? How old were you?
I had left EY. No, I am 41 now. I had left EY in 2007. So 1979. I was close to 28.
Yeah, 28. That's exactly what I said. Yeah. So 28, 27, 28. Yeah, that was for a 28-year-old, you had done a lot already, right? I mean, most people are still doing their articleships or whatever, right? By that time, because they spent 5 years doing chartered accountancy, which I hope you didn't want to do.
No. I topped finance in my MBA. I flunked accounts. Thank God it was optional. And then my professor was saying, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, I can always hire an accountant. It's tougher to do finance.
So 2007, you quit EY. And when did you start NODWIN then?
The same, like in 2007. NODWIN. So NODWIN is the group company. Like my NODWIN actually stands for my. So when we had to go ahead and do something as my entrepreneurial journey, everyone was like, I had come from EY. I was like, ye Ernst & Young kaun hai? Ye Price Waterhouse of Coopers kaun hai? Ye Amarchand Mangal Das kaun hai? And I was like, अच्छा तो मैं और मेरा भाई and my brother wanted to go and start this off at this. So me and my brother क्यों नहीं कर सकते? But rather than just call us Rathee and brothers, Rathee brothers or Rathee and sons or whatever, we decided to call ourselves from our 2 nicknames. My grandfather had named me Naughty, as from the Naughty from Enid Blyton, and then my brother's name is Winnie from Winnie the Pooh, and so NODWIN was coming out of there.
That's quite a story, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, it's like, and it actually has a nice phonetic ring to it. You nod and you win, right? So, and we're like, karte hain. We'll see what happens out of it. So we built NODWIN as the holdco outside, and then we did consulting under it. We did restaurants under it. We did M&A under it, and kept on growing the group per se, creating wealth. And I think we started NODWIN. Well, one of the consulting divisions is called NODWIN Consultants, and NODWIN Consultants actually incubated NODWIN Gaming.
Wow. So, and your brother is still part of NODWIN, or he does something else?
He runs his own law firm right now. He's like, you two act out for me. He says, you do cool things, I'll do boring things.
So you did so many things, and then finally you did gaming. And this is, I remember that time was a tough time of gaming, right? I mean, 2007, 2008 was not easy.
We waited. You were still doing WCG at that time, and you just stopped doing it. And I started doing gaming when this stupid thing called the Indian Gaming Carnival happened. This was a couple of years after you had stopped doing WCG, and then Yogesh from Reinforcement, who was part of your older team, Yogesh Nagdev, and I had got again. I still love gaming, right? And I was basically a community manager on my own accord out for the Battlefield community. And my co-founder was...
What is that Yogesh guy even up to? I've not been in touch with him for a long time.
Yogesh is a part of NVIDIA right now. He's a very senior member at NVIDIA under Vishal.
Got it. No, I remember he was very close. He was in Vashti or somewhere.
He still is there.
Oh, he's in Vashti. Okay.
So we got together and I was doing... when I was running my own consulting business, me and my co-founder had met online. We are both StarCraft lovers. In a bygone era, it was one of the toughest games, and it still remains one of the toughest games in the world to go out and play on a computer. And he and I had met online in the year 2010. He was a Canadian who had come to India who wanted to go out and do gaming and wanted to just find another person to go out and play StarCraft with. And he couldn't download a 12 gigabyte game. And I said, I'll come and I'll give it to him. Or 3 DVDs at that time, actually. It was only 4.5 gigabytes you could fit in one. And so just started hanging out. And when you play StarCraft or any kind of a game with a person over a year and a half, you get to know a person. I know it sounds very whacked out for a lot of people who don't understand gaming, but if you have gaming partners and over time you game consistently with them, you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses, you know when they're going to get randomly angry, you know when they're going to be performing really well. And
this was the era of LAN gaming. It was not online. You were physically hanging. Yeah, you were physically hanging out just for everybody's store, right? Because right now this virtual hanging out is good, but it is much different. I mean, physically hanging out and playing games. And I remember there were gaming parlors, right? I mean, I don't know how many people know this, but there was a time Sifi had invested in gaming parlors, and Reliance had Zapak, whatever it was called, gaming parlors, and it was Counter-Strike was like the religion at that point of time, and
Dota 1.
Dota, but it was, India was a Counter-Strike
country, always
right? So Counter-Strike was the big thing, and we of course at India Games had invested a lot. I mean, we even had our own team and all kinds of shit. And one of my biggest problems was that these guys used to sledge a lot, and we were like, guys, you can't do this. It was, you are a brand. So, I mean, those were really crazy times because
those things still don't change too much.
I don't know if you know, but we had done something even more crazy. I don't know. Maybe you can attempt it now, or maybe next year.
The India-Pakistan series that you.
The India-Pakistan series,
yes,
the India-Pakistan was the most crazy idea we did.
I remember.
Yeah, it was the most crazy idea because
you would put it on AXN, right?
Yeah, it was on AXN too. Because the problem was that when we were getting their visas, it was a nightmare because we had to tell the visa office that we are getting them to do counter-terrorism. They had to explain the game. And if you what? They are going to be terrorists? I said, no, they're not terrorists. They will play terrorists and counter-terrorists. So explaining the police and explaining the guys and their visas were rejected. We had to get NASCOM involved. And then, the way it works was when you are from Pakistan, you need to go every day and you are supposed to go to the police and all that. So it was a huge nightmare for us. But I think at least that time the relationship was not as bad. So we were able to pull it off. And I think that was, I would say, the most memorable for me for, having India-Pakistan.
I remember watching it. Because I've been always this gaming fan forever, right? So to me, this has been what you did and what you created always inspired me to go ahead and say, this is cool, and I wish it continued. So anyway, he and I met online. We decided to go ahead and do not a gaming company together. We decided to go ahead and do a food cart business together called Andas.
Wow.
UNDAZ. Yeah. He loves food. I always believe find your passion, and if you can convert some part of your passion into your business, you will work 7 days a week. Simple problem statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe if you don't do something for 7 days a week, and at least at a certain time in your career and in the incubation of a business, you will get left behind. Because hard work is such an underrated thing. One of the secrets for NODWIN's success has always been be 1% better than everyone else every day. And in a year, you'll be 300% better than everyone else. Right? It's a very boring way to go ahead and be better.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can go ahead and do that is to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So tell me something, 2007 is when you launched Andas. So when did 2010 and when did you actually launch esports then?
So 2010 we launched Andas. We tried, it didn't work. It was one of our disasters. India wasn't, and I still believe still not super ready for carts to move around that are fully licensed. The understanding for most municipality and police people is that this guy is doing fraud and he doesn't have a license. So even if he had license, our people got beaten up. So it didn't work. No amount of business models could go and solve infrastructural problem. But again, taught me one thing, right? Without infrastructure, you cannot go and build business. So then Indian Gaming Carnival happened. Gautam was managing the StarCraft community on just evenings because we used to love gaming, right? And I used to go and be part of the Battlefield community. We still had undas happening. We were still going and doing business and consulting and everything. We went to this place and it was like the Fire Festival you watched on Netflix. People had gotten beaten up. The organizers had run away with money. International people had come from Moscow. From Moscow 5 had come down for Counter-Strike. People had come down from Thailand, from Hong Kong. And all of these people were just swindled. There was, forget having a tournament there. And this was all entry fee of 500, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 rupees kind of entries that is there. There were 800, there were 1,500 people standing outside. There are still posts online if you find the Indian Gaming Carnival. But unmitigated disaster. And the world started saying, you bloody Indians, you're cheats, you're frauds. India sucks. As such. And I was like, dude, no. Some people suck. India doesn't suck. So in a fit of rage, I told every one of the people from the Counter-Strike, from the StarCraft and the Battlefield communities to come to my house. Brought them to my house. We LAN cafe'd the whole thing. We put 40 PCs in my house, in the house next to us. We got that the neighbors weren't there. They let us do what we want. It was fairly empty. We set up everything there. We literally built it like a LAN gaming cafe there. And for all of these international people and domestic people, we had our own version of this stupid thing called IGC, called not IGC. And we gave away the prizes. We did everything that we needed to go out and do at that time. And then everyone asked the question, why don't you really do this? And again, got drunk, said yes, of course I should do it. Yes, and my founder is also like, Gautam also is like, हाँ करते हैं, देखा जाएगा इसके अंदर. And Yogesh also is like, let's do this or whatever. So we said, fine, do it. More prophetic words were not said. There was nothing. I wanted to do esports. There was not even the sponsorships right now after you had vacated that space. Sponsorship was returnable mouse pads. You can't feed an office and an organization on returnable mouse pads as sponsorship, right? And the answer here was not because the person who's giving you the returnable mouse pad is being evil. It's business, right? He's a distributor. There is no marketing function because there is no market. And hence it's only a distribution function. For a distribution function, every dime he gives away is going out of his profitability. He's not incentivized to go ahead and do this. He needs air cover to be created by the marketing people. The marketing people are not sitting in India. The marketing people are sitting in another company, another country to go ahead and do this. Whether it be for an OEM endemic or a Intel or a laptop or for people who are the publishers. None of them are sitting in India. Only distributors are sitting in India. And then I was like, I can't keep on going to distributors. It will not go out and be viable. And the publishers are not coming here. So how do you solve this problem? And the answer was, don't go to the endemics. Sell the TG, don't sell the product, which is 16 to 24-year-old males. So we started going to very quickly telcos and FMCG companies to go out and say, we reach out to 16 to 24-year-old males. Would you like to be partnered with us? And they get this conversation, right? And that comes from the sum total of what did my MBA help? What did my business model help? What did my international traveling experience help? Understanding what is the problem statement and solving that entire process, which is there. Trying to break the structure would never break. The distributor is not going to give you money.
So tell me something, how easy or difficult was it for you to raise money? Because right now, everybody and his dog is trying to start esports and, every day, I'm sure you must be getting 1,000 emails of some or the other guy trying to, of course, do RMG. That's a different story. But how was it for you to raise money?
So I put in some amount, the initial part, I put in the certain amount of money. I think it was 50 lakhs at the start. I had some money that I had made from my previous businesses that I put some amount of money there. But then along came a guy called Rajan Navani. He and I are fellows of the Aspen Institute together. Again, you've been through the trenches. You have some commonality of language and interests that is there. So we got along, I got along. He was one of our partners one of our clients for our consulting business, where his family is from the mother's recipe side. So we were doing some work on turnaround and market entry strategy for different diversification for mother's recipe and for Desai BD and their entire family business. And since we had done a good work there, they said, "Tujhe karna kya hai life mein?" And I was like, "I want to do gaming and esports. And this is what it is." And this midway through my pitch, he was like, "Okay, how much do you need?" And I was like, 1 crore. He's like, "Okay, done. You're going to run it?" "Yes." "You'll give full time to it?" "Yes." He says, "Do it." So I sold 50% of my company to him for 1 crore at that time.
50% for 1 crore.
Yep.
Wow.
He was my first investor.
And of course, I think that time you had an easy pitch. You didn't have to go to anybody and pitch anything.
No, this was from his office to the airport, which is 26 minutes away.
He's in Pune, I presume. So this happened in Pune.
Yes.
Wow. And how did you end up then dealing with Nazara? Because that must be like
his funding came in, kept on growing, always liked profitability, never understood how to go out and lose money. Was never a B2C firm, was not going and doing this. Just old, boring, hard work, profitability. Work hard yourself, pay yourself less, make sure that there is enough profitability. Make sure you're profitable, because one day your gravy train will come. And having that fundamental belief that I will be able to sell this in the future, and kept building it for another 2 years. So this was 2015, this investment came in. 3 years later, very interesting time. Had one of those I will dirty my pants again kind of moment happened. So this is 2018. Ronnie Screwvala, you're a really good friend. And so Ronnie Screwvala.
By the way, you know that, right? Everybody love me and everybody are my friends in this business.
Of course. So Ronnie Screwvala, Reliance.
He was doing this whatever it was.
No, this is before that. So Ronnie Screwvala announces I'm doing esports. Then Root Mobile announces they're doing esports. Reliance announces they're doing esports. And Manish from Nazara announced they are doing esports. And none of them talked for less than 700 crores. So $10 million, $13 million, $18 million, $20 million. Right? I was like, let's sum total all of that. That's $90 million that people are going to invest in this ecosystem that they have done. And I'm schmuck, right? I believe that someone makes a PR story, they're actually going to do it. So I was like, $90 million investing now. Yeah, around 700 crores is going to be invested. Our turnover is 7 crores. So it's like, we can't fight this, can we? And my co-founder and me said that, no, we can't fight this. So we might as well align with someone we trust and we like. So we met obviously every one of them which is there, and Manish put in an offer right now. And remember at that time they were about to go IPO, which is there. Sometimes stars align in whatever way. They put in an offer to go ahead and invest and take 51% of the company at that time. And we said yes.
But 51% is as good as selling your company away, right? I mean, that is what...
Everyone thinks so. Everyone thinks so. There's enough science behind that to go ahead and say, you can leave certain rights available for you in the future. Remember, the guy who has 51% has either one of two things. Either to go get diluted in the future and fall below 51%, and then you're back to square even to go and do what you want. Or his incentive is to keep buying you. If he doesn't buy you forever, which is there, your exit options start triggering. So I had a very good lawyer. And that's the other part you should always have. Come from a lawyer's family, so understand law fairly well. But we also had a very good lawyer who helped draft very strong things where we ran the company. And there were very clear options between 2, 3, and 4 years for us if we were either not acquired or not fully acquired. So we had options to move on.
So basically, you never had like a VC stroke private equity investor ever in your company. You basically bootstrapped your company, made it profitable, and then directly got a strategic investor in place.
So went from angel round to strategic.
So that's the way to do this, right? And that's exactly what it's surprising to me of all these real money gaming companies here, raising millions of dollars and distributing it to people to gamble on their sites. So that's a fun part of what's happening. I don't know who makes money there.
I don't know. Okay, wrong word. I don't know. Understand who's making wealth there. How is India making wealth there?
Well, like I said, we need to have a very different podcast just talking about what's happening there. Right now, my focus is what you have been able to do and how you've been able to pull through this, because I think, people don't realize that how much hard work goes into it, right? For people, they think, अरे कोई था ये गेम टूर्नामेंट ऑर्गेनाइज करता था, देखो ओवरनाइट इसको इतने मिलियंस मिल गए, right? So people just don't, and especially of this whole community of gamers on YouTube and Twitter and all these places, right? I mean, they don't even do basic research on anything, and they're just trolling people, and so I'm sure you must have gone through a lot of this whiplash. So tell me something. How do you define your journey? Do you think it's what has been the role of let me use the word destiny or luck in your journey so far?
I think it's a very important. Someone often asks me, what is the manifestation of luck in real life? And my answer is, it's timing. We often call it timing. So, and timing to what a person who is prepared and has everything to take advantage of certain situations that might come in the future is a person they're like, oh my God, you're so lucky. This wave was coming and you had a surfboard. And my answer is, dude, I've been surfing here for the last 20 years to go ahead and learn and be a great surfer. So when the wave comes, I can fly on it. Right? It's the ability to go ahead and say, these are my means. This is what I can go ahead and do. And when the time comes, I will be able to go ahead and utilize it best. So luck has been an extremely important part for us. But we worked hard to go ahead and make sure we get multiple opportunities of luck. Right? Like you always want to have that luck thing keep on coming and ringing, right? Sometimes it will not work and sometimes it's there. Because if it only rings once in your life, you'll have a problem. Just have the ability to go ahead and have luck will turn for you multiple times. Which is again goes back, the only way you'll go do that is have a vision and work hard. Such boring things to go ahead and do, right? The problem is not having vision or not working hard.
So how did you get the vision on this business?
I always wanted to do, so to me the definition of the word esports was always, and I spent so much time understanding it, and I've traveled with ESL. I spent 3 years, 4 years just across the world, just meeting publishers, tournament organizers, developers, to go ahead and say, what is the space that is vacated, which is there, right? If publishers control the entire ecosystem, why are they not running their own leagues, which a lot of people ask? And the answer is most publishers tried to do it, and a lot of publishers failed to go ahead and run their own esports. Then our answer was, why have they failed? And they have failed because the growth and the heterogeneity that you get from doing multiple tournaments and multiple things gets you the knowledge to go ahead and do this. And if you want to go ahead and optimize only 2% of your revenue, then you get distracted, because the only commodity most companies have is time, right? So the bigger the distraction, the bigger the problem, which is there. And then you start optimizing for 2% and ignore the 98%. And then I was like, okay, then I need to be self-limiting to go ahead and do really well here. And then I need the ability where the publisher never believes that they're competition to me. They believe they're collaborating with them. And understanding that problem statement, then creating constructs with that allows us to go ahead and say, hey, I'll do media rights, and media rights is going to be my big business. And hence I changed myself to go ahead and say, I just need to create multiple IPLs, right? So I don't want to be the BCCI, which is the publisher. I want to be running the IPLs, and I want to go ahead and have different manifestations of it. And then breaking that problem statement and then breaking it down to 20 things we need to go ahead and do over the next 10 years gives you the vision.
So, running a B2B business is tough, right? There have been times when payment gets delayed, somebody moves, and because of this, you're negotiating a big deal. And for somebody who did not have funding for a long time, how did you sail through periods when there was no revenue, you had cash flow issues? How did you manage? Didn't you just said that
pay us nothing? Pay us nothing. Gautam and I, till the time we actually had enough of a bank, we had 3 employees in the company, the 3 founders, and we had no money between all of us. So I used to be the host. Gautam used to be the cameraman and the editor. Yogesh used to be the organizer. And then we had no money, but we had belief. We had savings. We had whatever money we could go ahead and do. We had that initial seed capital that I had put in, and we burned through that for some time. The idea was we started on 2nd of April as the year. And by the end of 31st of March of that year, we had enough money to go and make sure that we're profitable.
Mm-hmm. No, but I'm just saying that, given that in your past, you always thought, how much money can I make? And then you quit that job. In gaming, nobody had made any major money, right? So what kept you going? I mean, you should have one day asked the same question to somebody else. And
because I knew the partners I knew people had made money. I'd seen what you had made. I'd seen what ESL was making in terms of its revenue multiples and valuations. I was seeing all those global companies where they were being invested in or actually had value, and what is the valuation multiple, both on a revenue and an EBITDA level, was important.
Mm-hmm.
And then it only became as a problem statement. You just have to go ahead and be profitable long enough for you to be attractive to someone. And for the first 4-5 years, we knew we won't be. But
when India Games exited this whole esports business at that time, didn't you think, that where is this business going? Because when we said that, listen, this is not worth our investment, because what was happening was we were making 3, 4, 5 crores revenue, but it was taking too much management bandwidth. Part of the problem was the involvement is so high, right? And we were like, listen, we can make more money spending this time doing something else. That was really, there's nothing. This was simply the reason why we said...
It was a profitability problem. It was a revenue and profitability problem at that time. And to me, the revenue and profitability were, hey, let's be profitable, revenue dekhi. Right? Let's be profitable enough. Because one thing which is there, and this is not just a judgment, it's just a fact which is there. You were maybe about 5 years too early, right? And the answer here was, hey, media rights are kicking in, OTT platforms are coming in, India is a young place and it is getting younger by the day. Data prices were, I'd seen Jio come in, you had exited long before Jio, which is there. Data prices were still extremely expensive at that time. The phone manufacturers had crashed the prices, which is there. So to me, all of these were the perfect storm that is brewing up, right? It's literally the recipe that you want to go ahead and say, when will you enter a country? Data prices are coming down, cheap Chinese phones are coming in, average age of the country is going down, average age is less than 23 years old, explore the country, right? And then to me, those are metrics you want to go ahead and put secret sauce around. And it's by the metrics I run to go ahead and say which countries we should expand into. To go ahead, because you understand that.
So, you are again one of those persons who credit education and all this a lot. How do you keep yourself constantly abreast of education, or what do you do to invest in yourself?
I read about 2 hours a day. I game for 2 hours a day. Netflix CEO once said his biggest competition is Fortnite, because you are fundamentally all interactive entertainment or entertainment per se fights for 6 hours in every day. 6 hours is all you have every day that you can go ahead and allocate to something that you want to go ahead and do. And then that's the discretionary spend on our time that humanity has. And the more slicing you can go ahead and do for that, for a business, a platform, a activity, is where you're spending money. So I read a lot, and I really, really like reading a lot. But it doesn't have to be long readings, which is there. Sometimes I'll scroll through Medium and I'll read some really nice articles on business modeling and whatever. I subscribe to someone like a Reed, but also to any economist who's going and writing what is the future of business and education and all of these, where things are converging. How does the new convergence happen across, and how those things will move on? How will history repeat itself? Are there any books which you read or you recommend people they should be reading? If you're in business and sales, read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a really good book for you to go ahead and start. Not very long, easy to go ahead and digest. If you want to talk about leadership and the tough decisions that leaders need to take and what to delegate to your people and not to delegate to your people, Obama's book, Promised Land. Really nice. If you like the audiobook, definitely do that, because it's from his voice and you hear it much, much, much better. That's why you guys are hearing a podcast right now and not reading about it. So for all listeners, those are definitely 2 good start books I would recommend right now for just going out.
And then what is your take on spirituality? Do you practice any meditation, or what do you do around that?
I believe in a higher power, God. I'm not the guy who likes labeling it. Unfortunately, that becomes just you get down to this. My mother believes in Sikhism. My wife believes in Sikhism. My family believes in Sikhism. So that's the religion that predominates our family.
Mm-hmm. And since you are so much into movies, any movies you recommend people they should be watching?
Perseverance, definitely watch Shawshank Redemption. If that is there, and it's a true story of courage. Again, bringing people together for things that they don't understand. Remember the Titans, another great movie for you to go and watch. How you can bring disparate people who really don't like each other to go and have commonality of cause that you can go and bring in. I'm a Star Trek fan, so anything in Star Trek is always fun.
Yep, Star Trek. Yeah, it's really interesting that a lot of gamers somehow like, and especially in India, Star Wars is a very US thing. US, for some reason, Star Trek was never that big. I think India is really one of those places where...
We watched it. The reason for this is when we were all growing up, Diddy's comedy show Star Trek were back-to-back on Sunday morning.
Exactly. I do remember that, yeah. So tell me, how do you tell somebody what esports is? Because while, let's say an average gamer ko chhod do, most people listening to this podcast, unless they are avid gamers, they still are confused with what esports is. So what is your simplest way to explain people what is an esport?
If you love any sport and you like watching any sport, this is just the same. If you like Formula One and you like cars zooming around on a screen multiple number of times and you watch other people drive cars really fast, this is the activity of other gamers playing really fast on their devices. And this is an epitome of skill to go ahead and see who can drive the car the fastest, or who can shoot the fastest, or who can score the fastest, or whose fingers move the fastest. Just like any other place, this is just a sport. If you either love baseball or you're not. If you love basketball or you're not. You love esports or you're not. It's fine. It's just a sport. The ability to watch that sport is what makes it.
And I know I have my answer, but what is your answer when people tell that, oh, it's bad for kids and, kids will not study and gaming is ruining?
Most of the times, which is there, because I've often had parents who come and say to me, who've asked me saying, "Mera beta 10 घंटे esports खेलता है." I said, 9 घंटे आपका वो time waste करता है, or he's just entertaining himself. The 1 hour which he's there, he's practicing, because like any other sport, India somehow believes that you can play a cricket match to go ahead and build skills. That's not how you do. You don't play better cricket because you go downstairs to start playing a match. You develop skills, then you build skills, right? So that's why when you go to academies, it's your back lift, it's your wrist positions, it's your stamina, it's your agility, it's your stretching, it's your back, it's strengthening. You do a lot of exercises to go ahead and understand. The same thing applies to esports. Map awareness, multitasking ability, hand movement, 4-finger claw. If you're doing mobile, 4-finger claw, 3-finger claw. What are you going to do? What is your kind of grip? How are you doing your wrist exercises so that you're not going to get carpal tunnel syndrome? And just the ability to go ahead and be healthy, because the fatter you are, the slower you will be, is the definition of this. So if you're really interested in esports, tell me the skills you have built. Tell me how you have practiced 4 to 5 hours a day, rather than tell me how many matches you played yesterday.
And what is your advice to somebody, a young kid who wants to make a career in esports? What is your advice if somebody comes to you and says,
don't? And the answer for this is, you don't make a career in esports as such. You always want to go ahead and, like a true sport, there's only going to be between 100 to 200 people in a particular game who will go ahead and who will make careers out of it. Even in cricket right now, look at the number of people who have IPL central contracts by the BCCI. These are the people who are paid every month to go ahead and play. I kid you not, the total number of sportsmen per discipline in our country are less than 200 per thing. You can take kabaddi, you can take tennis, you can take football, you can take, these are the people who are paid a living to go ahead and do it. 200
so it's a top 1% basically.
It's always going to be the top 1%, because that's the nature of this entire ecosystem. So if you're going to say, I'm going to give up everything and only want to be a cricketer, accept the fact that you will have a 99% failure rate, right? And if your entire career, if your entire journey is just going to be saying, I will only do that and I'll give up my studies and I will give up my career, I will have no other fallback option, then you are disappointing you will disappoint not only yourself, but your parents and everyone else who believed in you. So have skills that will go ahead and transcend. If you're going in if you're trying to go ahead and be a really good esports guy, if you fail, can you be a caster? Can you be a coach? Can you be a trainer? Can you be a manager? And if those are the skills that you can still go ahead and do, then good. Now you have a multitude of options because now you have more chance to go ahead and succeed as such. Esports is tough. Esports is extremely tough to go ahead and come in from a player perspective. From an ecosystem, but there are many more jobs, right? You can start being an esports design level consultant for 4G for you tomorrow, or they can go ahead and do league ops for me, or they can go ahead and do tournament organization, or they can be events, which is there. You can be in social media, you can be in content, you can go ahead and be live production and non-live production and project management. And those are other skills that can go ahead and, so if you have those skills, you'll still be able to get into esports. But if your only definition of esports is I want to be a player, be careful.
And what is your hiring philosophy? Because I was seeing that, you have a particular way of even hiring people. You're just not getting...
We hire people, we don't hire roles. So everyone is like, iska job description kya hai? I was like, I don't know what the job description is. Job description is what we will figure out when the person joins us. Let's go ahead and get a person who has a certain attitude, a certain mindset, and a certain amount of effort that they can go ahead and put in. So if the person can't work hard, we don't like you. If the person doesn't...
Because I noticed that you also have a very like a corporate CEO now.
Yep.
Within the company. So what would be the role of one of the corporate CEOs for you? So compared to, let's say, a programmer who's working for you? So
again, Sid and I know each other for about a decade and a half, which is there. What Sid brings onto the table is this ability. So, we started this entire conversation with impatience is a good thing, which is there. While I'm impatient and I keep on creating these figments of my imagination, as part of a listed entity, there are certain norms that are important for both compliance and for going and running the company. And then we'll do M&A, and then everything has to be structured well. And having a person who understands and excels at going and doing that is the role which is there. So he is chief executive for the listed subsidiary of a subsidiary of a listed company, which comes with that responsibility and that baggage and that mindset that needs to be. It allows me also to go ahead and do wacky stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. So you have been able to now create a perfect team in that sense, right? I think
we're still missing some. I think we're still missing at least 3 or 4 arrows in the quiver that we don't have right now. We don't have a great marketing and a sales outreach from, especially on an international basis. We are kind of lacking there. Tech. We've always had great tech people, but we've never not had someone as a tech leadership position that we don't have. For the longest time, we've never had a CFO, because it was just like, ye kar lenge, dekha jayega. I think those are some of the quivers we still need. But that's an evolutionary process, right? You'll always have 1 or 2 things that you always...
It's just that you are a $500 million company and you don't have a CFO. That's okay.
We leverage the family around us to go ahead and get that work done.
But that's the best part about you, right? I mean, you can juggle so many things right now. Talking to you, I can understand that why. And it all goes back to that engineering lesson you did, that everything is about a hypothesis and an experiment and everything, right? So I think if you treat...
But it's also the other part. I always look, God's being kind right now. A lot of people in life will start problem statements with how this will be done, right? And they'll also come from a perspective, what I call the clouded perspective. Why should we do it, right? My answer to most things is, why not? Answer why not. Don't answer the why, right? So then you come from a positive lens saying, करना तो है, अब मुझे इस पे गलतियां दिखा दो क्या है, so that I will solve the problem, so I can go ahead and get to the next stage. Rather than go ahead and say, my job is to say no because it is not value. No, your job is to say yes.
So what are the most important lessons you think you have learned over all your varied experiences and now with all of this? Are there any tangible learnings which you can put together?
Solve intent before you solve structure. Pay people to solve structure.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them that they need to comply to the intent, not to the structure.
Okay.
Right? They'll figure out ways. Solve intent. Don't let structure solve intent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Acha, ye kar sakte hain. No. करना है नहीं करना है ये बोलो ना.
A lot of times people are not very clear on what they want to do. They just keep, beating around the bush and not being very clear.
Yeah,
And that,
it's like a Lego block, right? They'll say, this block goes over this block, great. And everyone's building this Lego block. And it's like, dude, why are we doing this again? Like someone told us to put Lego block after Lego block. No, this way, not this way. Right? And then, and then like you.
So tell me something. How did you deal with failure? And especially with naysayers, right? I mean, I'm sure a million people would have told you, "Are esports में कुछ रखा नहीं है, कोई पैसा नहीं देता है, सब advertiser लोग useless हैं." I mean, the standard stuff, right? So how did you keep yourself motivated? You said there were times when you were not taking salaries and all of that, right? So how did you deal with those?
Surround yourself with people who's when everyone says no, surround yourself with people whose opinion matters to you. Right? And if all of them still say no, and ask them why. So again, gut feel is nice, but tell me why. And if you can't answer the reasons, the specific reasons that the people who care about you have put up to you, then there is either change your mind. But if you can answer that to the satisfaction of either them or yourself, even they don't get it, right? You might go ahead and say, hey, this is the reason, and they don't understand it, but that's the right reason. No one in the room except you and yourself, and so it's there. If you still have that conviction, keep doing it. It's fine. It's just that some people don't, they care about you, right?
So given you have so many theories and, so many structures, are there any life hacks which you built for yourself, which kind of helped you improve your own productivity or your own outlook in work or in your personal life?
Exercise. It's super important. Taking care of your body is extremely important. Especially if you're going to be burning 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, you better go and take care of your body. There was a time I used to go and get really fat earlier. And I was a thin boy earlier in 20, 25, 26 years. Then it kind of went weird. And then because you always believe you're 26 years old, you never grow older in your head, but your body keeps growing older. So understand your body, understand that. Walk, exercise. I do that a lot. I made a mistake of talking on my phone like this. I got into a very bad shoulder issue in the recent past. So buy Bluetooth headphones. Your body will say thank you, and you'll actually exercise and walk more. Forget the fact that there is corona. Don't go outside, but do figure 8 and infinite loops inside the house. That's fine. Your family can say whatever they can. I do 10,000 steps in my house a day, and you can. Another thing which is really important is understand tech really well. There are so many things that work. You can be really simple by going and writing things on a sheet of paper like this, or you can go ahead and use Trello, or you can use Slack or Asana or whatever. But sort your life into something which is called a perennial to-do list, which is there. Everyone believes their brain, you're the most smartest person in there. You never forget anything. Trust me, you do. Write stuff down. And if you can use tech to go ahead and enable you to go ahead and say these things are still sitting in your list, bucket list that you need to go ahead and close off. Helps. In your calendar when you do meetings, put time for yourself. So I literally have 2 to 3 hours a day where I don't call it me time, but work time. Meetings are all good. When will you work? And as leaders, we all need to work on sending emails, on writing, on checking proposals, on checking stuff which is there. And both COVID and non-COVID, leaderships often just become this perennial march of meetings, right? So yeah, just very simple life hacks. Create space because your brain is your most important asset.
Yeah, your brain is your most important asset. And given your brain is on overdrive, where do you see yourself from, 5, 10, 15 years from now? I mean, you're already doing so well in esports. Is there a plan to go beyond esports? Is there a plan to take this to the next level? Or is there a plan for you to just retire and, now that you have professionals running your company or maybe do something else? What are you thinking?
So the first and the third, no, not on the table. I like what I do. I honestly love what I do. I like gaming. I like esports. It's close to what
But you are selling to boring corporates, right? I mean,
of course I am. Of course I am.
Selling to boring corporates.
But that doesn't mean that we can't do B2C in the future. The fact that we have not just meant that I didn't have the money or the capital to go ahead and do it. Should I right now? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not convinced about it yet. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. So one day I will convince myself either way to go ahead and do it. Should I go?
But you're in a great position. You already have the capital and you don't know what to do with it. Well, that's a great position to be
No,
in.
I know what to do with this capital. This capital is very simple. Expand internationally in all markets where mobile is extremely strong. Very, very clearly one singular point of agenda to go ahead and do this. If I have that vision to go ahead and be among the biggest esports company in the world, I better go ahead and be in a space where I can keep on managing growth and understand those markets and be where they are. We'll do M&A for going and doing both capability and capacity. As I said, there are a couple of quivers in our bow that are still missing. We'd love to go ahead and be looking at that. We'll do bigger things, not just really nice esports IPs that I'd go ahead and build with different partners, but bigger, better, larger IPs that can look at franchising and that dream of being IPL, right? I honestly believe esports will be the second largest watched category after India cricket in India. And India cricket's worth 20, 30,000 crores, right? So who says we can't be closer to that?
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to take time. I mean, the generation which is watching IPL is a generation which was watching Test cricket and one day, and now they graduated to it, right? So it took, 10, 15, 20 years to do it. So
we've done the 5-year thing. I think it's 10 years away. Now the question is, can we compress the 10 to 5? And those are the interesting challenges, right? What can I do to compress that 10 years to 5? I believe there's the huge compression that already happened because of COVID. I would never have been valued as much as I was unless there was COVID. It helped.
So of course, COVID has helped a lot of industries, and gaming certainly is one of them. I think it is, people were all locked in and their only way to socialize was gaming. So definitely that has been proven. But tell me something, how do you seek inspiration, in this whole era of doom and gloom and all of this in your life? I mean, you've done so many things. What has inspired you, or who are the people or books or ideas? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Such a tough question, right? It's such a lonely space at the top. And I'm talking from one founder to another founder, which is there, right? You try to go ahead and take this to your family. You know what their answer is. 90% of the time, we are with you. We'll support you. We got your back. Go do what you think is right. Because you've built it till here. You go to your investors and they're like, as long as it is value creating, it's fine.
Yeah.
You go to your employees and they're like, what you say is fine. We'll give you some opinion, but what you say.
Increment kab hone wala hai, wo bata do bas.
So everyone has a lens to look at what you want to do, right? And then how do you find that inspiration? So I was blessed with one little thing. I was called in by some people to be part of this thing called the Aspen India Leadership Program. So it's a global leadership program based out of the Aspen Institute in Colorado, where they pick certain people where they go ahead and match them with different people to go ahead and say, what is the meaning of life? What is the principles of equity? Why is communism bad? Is socialism bad? Is democracy good? What are the negatives of democracy? Why don't people like each other? What is religion? What is the philosophical, big, very deep questions, but answered very specifically. And they don't answer this, right? And there'll be 20 people who will be the diplomatic editor for India. There'll be a movie star from India. There'll be someone as wacky as me. There'll be someone who's done extremely well in logistics. There'll be people who are helping women, abuse victims, which are women. And we'll all sit together and say, what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? And this entire redefining philosophy on the basis of what is reality and what works and doesn't work, and why does humanity behave either extremely evil or extremely good, and understanding those are the questions. So read and have people to talk to about who have nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. They're not competition, they're not mentors, they're not investors, they're not advisors, they're nobody, but very successful in their fields.
And that's how you also met the guys from Jet Synthesis, right? I mean, that's what.
Yeah. And once you're in the trenches and we understand each other, the question is, will this person be successful or not? Is the question he had to ask. He had not to answer the question saying.
So I think to simplify it, that you got a good mentor, or you got a set of mentors in life. And I think people kind of undervalue the importance of mentorship, right? And I think part of the reason I do this show is for people to get mentored, in a way, because a lot of times people are doing their own shit without realizing that, you can learn from so many people who could be doing nothing. You could be doing something completely else, but listening to you, one idea could be borrowed for any business or any field of life. I mean, I think especially when you talked about taking the concept of science and applying it to anything, right? That itself is such a great idea. And I certainly am inspired to learn something from it.
Oh, thank you. And I think your show does that for me too, right? So I was very, very happy to hear one of my other mentors and friends, Roshan's show on this. Again, look at where he was, where he's come from, Lucknow to what he's achieved out of this, right? I think just hearing stuff, again, create that space, right? It doesn't, the video doesn't, or the podcast doesn't have to end in 4 minutes. This is not an Instagram reel. Put in I was watching, and I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I love some of those things which are there. The Winter Soldier and the Falcon that is running on Disney Plus right now. He says something very simple. It says, you want to do something right? Put in the work, right? Hear the podcast. Can you finish the podcast for 2 hours? Your mind, your dopamine, your habits of going and saying, can I check my SMSs and email during this time? Can I go ahead and finish one more activity? Can I do something else? Am I wasting my time? I've been doing it for 1.5 hours to go ahead and listen to this podcast. Put in the time.
And that's the most interesting part, right? When we were thinking about this podcast, each and every person who was advising me, including the IBM guys, were like, who's going to listen to a 2-hour or 1.5-hour podcast? And I said, listen, that's the whole point. While you have your 15 and 20-minute shows, the idea is that this is for people who are seriously interested in the topic. And I think that's the beauty today, that you don't need to create content which appeals to millions of people. You just want to make sure your content appeals to those few thousand or few 100,000 people who really matter. And I think, the community which we've been able to create, by the way, is exactly that, right? People who want to get inspired. And I keep getting tweets and messages of people saying that, hey, I heard, this episode, or I heard this person's story and I was able to get inspired. And I'm sure listening to you, all the people who are looking at gaming as a career or esports as a career will realize that, listen, it's a game of 1%. And your odds of success actually might be higher somewhere else. So just because you are seeing, a few people getting millions of dollars playing games, don't assume that it's that easy. It's not that easy.
There's so many people. You have a higher chance of making it to IIT or the Indian Civil Services than to go and be an esports gamer.
And also at the same time, you're not going to make money on any of the RMG games. Believe me, even if they say you're making 10 crores or 50 crores, the chances of that is even lower.
Yeah. And therein lies the life lesson, which I often like to go ahead and say. If hearing us right now, there's one more VishalGondal and 2 more Akshats that come out of it, our job is done.
That's the idea.
So honestly,
that's the idea,
right? Quantity does not beat quality.
And that's what I said. So how do you scale mentorship, right? So this is an example of what we are doing. I mean, the conversation we are having is not scripted. This is not like we've decided what we are going to speak. I think the whole idea is that the only way to learn is to learn from people who have already been on the path or who've been on the trenches before. And I think it is that much more important for the startup community, the gaming community, and the community of entrepreneurs, because it's a very, very lonely journey. But I must tell you, Akshat, I'm absolutely proud of what you've done. And I think you have truly built a real company. We've seen what has happened. It's unfortunate that millions of dollars have been invested in not gaming, but gambling in India. And these companies are, claiming to be unicorns. And I have no issues on them being unicorns, more power to them. But the only thing is that's not gaming. But what you are doing and what you have built is the true manifestation of gaming. And I just wish you more luck, all the success, and keep doing what you're doing and inspiring the millions of people around the world. Thanks a lot once again.
Likewise, Vishal. I thank you so much. And to the listeners, Vishal happens to be one of my heroes in life. So I wouldn't be here without the path he had set up. And look at that, right? I am here because of what he did. So if now you have two people who are telling you this is cool, but put in that hard work, look at any of our stories, and we'll see you out there.
Thanks, Akshat. Thanks a lot again. Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Cied, thewholetruthfoods.com, and PayPal. We really appreciate your support. So this week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus had some interesting guests. Kayos Irani was on to talk about his new Netflix film, and Mayur Tekchandani has made a new coffee table book about the city of Mumbai, which he came to discuss on the show. On the Wire Talk, Siddharth Bhatia was joined by Dr. Ali Khan Mahmoodabad to talk about the Muslim community's issues during these thorny times. On the Habit Coach, Aspen Doctor is joined by Sonia Jas to talk about the importance of fitness and why this is a great time to begin a journey to good health. The Simplified Gang has reunited and they discuss the hue and cry around the European Super League that was eventually just dropped after 2 days. On Shunya One, Shilith and I are talking to Gurubat from PayPal India. We talk about fintech, the future of digital payments, and a whole lot more. Really deep and interesting conversation about PayPal, its plans in India, and what kind of hiring they're looking to do. On the Millennial Athlete, Tanvi and Shlok were joined by sport and performance psychologist Dr. Shri Advani to talk about mental health for young sports stars. And I just want to again mention some of our cricket shows. You should definitely check out Edges and Sledges. And we also have a Hindi show called Khel Niti. Do check that out as well. And with that, we hope to see you again next week.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you. Begin the journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Cheers.